Hi, my name's Sebastian. I own a 2017 G63 AMG. Had a few G Wagons. This is, I think it's my 5th or 6th G Wagon. We set this one up predominantly for the touring, for the off-road. Look, I grew up in country Queensland, about 300 k's northwest of Brizzy. Always enjoyed four-wheel driving and country and just getting out and being somewhere away from the city. So unfortunately, with work, it draws you to the city, and you know, pretty busy. But luckily, have the opportunity to do some things like this and turn a passion for modifying cars into something that I enjoy and can utilise. My first car was a Suzuki Vitara, which was I wouldn't call that a weapon off-road, but that was my first car, and I've had a number of cars. I've still got an EH, 1964 EH. Again, spent a mozza on that, all over it. So you know, that's a fantastic car. But I'm not really stuck to one genre. I just love cars. So yeah, I've got some older cars, and like I mentioned before, I had 5 or 6 of these G Wagons, and a bit mad on the Porsches, but apart from that, they're not that good when they're not like this. So you know, 2 different types of classes, but yeah, just a car enthusiast and just a passion for vehicles. So originally I was really keen to get a 6-wheel G63 that Mercedes do, but they only make them in Europe and basically in the Middle East. You can get them there as well. We approached Mercedes here about trying to get one to come in, and that was a pretty big no. And then subsequently, after they released the 4x4 squared, tried that again, if they'd bring one in, pretty big no. So it didn't really leave us many options in doing one, so the only way to really do it was to build your own, which seems pretty crazy when you're talking a car like this. But we ended up I bought a G63 and then set about modifying it to make it into a 4x4 squared. So a lot of the components that are on it are as per the 4x4 squared. Some items we couldn't get, other ones we had to source from third parties. But it's a process that's taken now probably 2 years to get to where it is today, and a lot of sweat and a lot of headaches. But we got there. Yeah, look, I bought a Colorado in the interim between G Wagons and thought this would be pretty cool. Set this up for off-road. I think I bought every item in the ARB catalogue, and you know, did a bit of work with that. But in the end, when you drive it, it just wasn't the same as the G Wagon, and not as capable either. So the G Wagon, what I like about that, it's quite a short wheelbase. You know, it's got good clearance. The approach and departure angles are really good, and it comes from the factory set up with all the diff locks, front, centre, rear diff locks set up, low range. So as a four-wheel drive, extremely capable four-wheel drive. The Australian Army got out of all the Defenders and went to G Wagons, and you know, when they started that contract, then basically that's when they bought the right-hand drive, you know, G63s back into Australia. So it was a natural choice to get something that was capable off-road and could modify us from a baseline. Yeah, pretty much with Chris, he's probably 13 years with Mercedes as a tech, and he's a G Wagon guru. So I had the ideas of what I wanted to do, and then I would always discuss that with him, and he would come back and say, yep, that's a good idea, or nah, forget it. Generally when he said that, I went ahead and did it anyway. So just a really good sounding board for the ideas, and because he knew the technicalities of how to do it and how to implement it with the vehicle, I would talk to him pretty much daily about what we're doing and how it's going, particularly when we got to the areas where we had some headaches of making it all work. That took a combined effort to make it come to fruition. Yeah, look, I think the big thing that, and you probably see when, you know, on the comments in Facebook and Instagram and everything, when someone takes a nice car and they build it for off-road and they put a lot of gear on it, it's generally, you know, it'll mount a gutter in a shopping centre, or that's great for mum picking up the kids from the car park or whatever. But I think from my side, yeah, fortunate enough to be able to afford a nice baseline vehicle to start with every intention of using it off-road. And next weekend we're taking it up to the high country, 4 or 5 days there. We've got a couple of trips in Rove and Beachport planned, another big 10-day trip in the high country in January. And just, it's built to go off-road, it's not built to sit in the showroom somewhere. So yes, it looks good, yes, it's nice, it's got some nice gear on it, but that's not what it's built for. So at the end of the day, when it comes down to the dollars, everyone always asks the questions, how much did it cost, and how much you spent on the modifications, and really it's all relative as to what you're comfortable in spending, because I think you can get just as much enjoyment out of taking a base model cruiser or an older cruiser, modifying it to exactly how you want it, and you'll get exactly the same level of enjoyment. Like I mentioned, I'm fortunate enough to be able to afford a nice car to start with, and then also modify it to the way that I want to have it. And the good thing of that from my side is it's the only one in the country, it's the only one in the southern hemisphere like this. There's a few floating around in the northern hemisphere, but nothing down here. So cost-wise, yeah, it's not a cheap exercise by any stretch of the imagination, but it's something that I'm not planning on selling either, so it's a vehicle that I'll keep for forever, just to use for the going off-roading and enjoying for what it is.
Make sure you watch part 2 of this rig rundown on YouTube, where I speak to Chris Carruthers, the man responsible for building this one-of-a-kind four-wheel drive.
They say the definition of subscribe is to arrange to receive something, typically a publication, regularly by paying in advance. Please arrange to receive something, typically a publication, regularly by paying in advance by clicking the button below.